Hello, and thank you for joining us for our BNI San Diego podcast. I'm your host, Ed Wilson, the executive director for BNI San Diego. And I know that I say this periodically about how excited I am and privileged I am to have the guest on that we are. But the one that I've got on today that you can see from view, excuse me, is one of my favorite people in BNI around the world. It is Patti Salvucci, who was the former executive director for BNI Massachusetts. And was it just Mass?
It was 5 counties in Massachusetts.
Which is quite a few people.
We had 2,700 members,
2,700
and
men.
I
Wow.
retired. Yes, 2,700 members and 100 chapters.
Wow. So
Mm.
Patti, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome, Ed. I'm happy to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about you. So before we get into the topic, which I'm really, really excited about, let's talk about Patti Salvucci. Patti, you were a franchisee for 25 years.
Yes, I was.
And you retired what, about 6 years ago now?
Years ago.
So what
Yep.
are some of if you were looking back at
Mm.
that 25 years, what are some of those things that stand out?
Oh my. Well, things that stand out. There's so many things. There's so many things.
But
It
besides relationships with, the wonderful
Exactly. I
relationships
mean,
like,
it wasn't easy in the beginning.
mm,
There was no BNI chapters here. There was nothing. And so I had to start from scratch.
but you literally started the very first chapter in Massachusetts.
Yes, let's see. Ivan was actually my coach, if you
Oh,
can
nice.
believe that. I think there were only about 300 chapters in BNI. Oh my word. And I didn't know, I had no idea even how to start. And he said, you have to go out and get people that are the best at what they do. You'd refer in a heartbeat and return phone calls.
Well,
And I thought, wow,
and
I know a lot of people in business, but when he said those three things, return phone calls, best at what they do, refer in a heartbeat, I only invited 8 friends. And interestingly enough, I had gone down to Connecticut to see a chapter, and it was above a pizza shop, and had really had no idea what I was looking at. And it was 7 a.m. People were really, really excited. But what got me most excited was that after the meeting and all the passing of referrals, the attorney made an appointment to have lunch with the plumber.
oh,
And
and you
I
wouldn't know
I
those are
know, I
typically
know. And I
people
said, you know
who
what?
don't,
You
yeah.
would never see this in the community. That is what got me so excited about
Oh,
BNI, that it brings the community together because people are busy. People have
mm,
become so insular in their lives. They don't even know who their next door neighbor in their neighborhood is, let
isn't that
alone
true?
business. So I love that this just brought the community together. So that's what really jazzed me, in the beginning. And so I actually started 6 chapters in 60 days.
Oh,
That
nice. Wow.
like claim to fame. I mean, people heard about it and they said, "How do we start a chapter?" Like,
Hmm.
wow. So it was really crazy, and I mean, I loved every minute of it. But what happened is we grew really fast, and I couldn't be visiting all the chapters.
Yes.
It just wasn't going to happen. And with 100 chapters, I said, how can I get myself in front of it? We didn't do podcasts then or things like that. You're so lucky, right? But I started doing these things called Coffee with Patty.
I
Because,
love it.
I mean, if I went out and did 10 minutes, a 10-minute presentation, what could I possibly say in 10 minutes? There was just so much that I wanted to share. And I'd be looking at the traffic lights,
Yeah.
and I would see people, I could see the frustration. I could see
Mhm.
people weren't getting the most out of their membership. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go out and talk to them about maximizing their membership because, they put faith in us. And
Yep.
now I just want to make sure that they understand and have the tools that they need to go out and be successful, you know.
Well, and I love it. And that's the intro for our podcast topic today, which is maximizing your membership. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I love the idea of this topic because We talk about elements of BNI and we talk about how wonderful it is coming into meeting these people or meeting different professionals. And I love the example that you used a few minutes ago about the attorney and the plumber, right? Those two professionals that wouldn't typically, meet or interact with each other because the genres are so different, but yet
Mhm.
it brings people together. And I love the idea of the topic of maximizing your membership, because what this conversation is going to allow us to do is to help people understand that there's things that you need to do. It's not just about, hey, Ed's in the room, I signed up, let the referrals flow, to me. It's
Right.
more than that, right? It's
Right.
about
And
building the relationships.
I think that when people join, it is normal. It's
Mm.
normal to say, okay, it's a referral organization. I'm going to be getting all these referrals. And then you go and you realize, like, huh, how am I going to get more referrals?
Mm.
Wait a minute. Uh, I'm gonna share a really quick story one of those 6 chapters that I had kicked off. One was a very young financial planner, and he had his master's in finance. His
Oh,
father had been at Merrill Lynch his whole life, and this young lad, he was so motivated. He looked like a baby, bless his heart. He was like, he was in his early 20s, but he looked like he was about 16. And here he is, a financial planner, and thinking about people giving him money to
oh,
invest. Right.
yes.
So we developed a relationship. He kept asking a lot of questions all the time during the core group, and I said, Matt, my advice to you is to forget about yourself
Oh,
for a
yeah.
bit. And I want you to go out and invite as many people as you can find and focus on just passing referrals. That's it. Invite visitors, pass referrals. And then people are going to see who you really are.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
then you start building your credibility. Well, he's like, well, how do I get visitors? And I said, okay, well, one way is think about who you know in the community, who your family knows in the community that has a lot of credibility. I said, okay. And I said, all right, so you're going to call that person up and just share that, you know what, we're having a large networking event, or if you're even having a regular BNI meeting. Um, I meet with some local business people that are looking to give business to a printer.
Ooh.
Who do you know who is the best printer in town? Or who do you know who's the best CPA? Or who do you know who's the best? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And they're going to give you a name. And then you call that person. Now, this is not a cold call, because you call them up and you say, hi, John. My name is Patti Salvucci, and you were just highly recommended by Ed Wilson. Oh, I've known Ed for years. Yeah, Ed's a great guy. How can I help you? It's like they're relaxed. They're saying, oh, this
It's
is
no longer, it's not a cold call. It's now an
exactly. Well,
introduction
how
to,
can I
yeah.
help you? Right. Well, let me tell you the reason why I called. We have some local business people that are meeting that are looking to give business to a printer. Would you be interested in meeting those people? I mean, yes, they want to meet them. No, they don't. And if they say, I really, uh, we have a lot of business and we're growing, da da da, and we don't have time, or okay, that's great. Who do you send your overflow business to?
Mm.
And and more often than not, they will tell you who.
Oh, really?
Yes, and that happened when I was, forming my very first chapter.
Mhm.
And people would give me another printer. And I'm like, okay, great. That's great.
So
Um,
it's a win-win either way.
a win-win, right? So there's so many ways of inviting visitors, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but even if you're like, oh, I remember an executive director that I used to work with in Connecticut, and she used to share this thing about when you're on the phone during the day, you're talking, it doesn't matter who you're talking to, and at the end of the conversation, you say, before I hang up, do you happen to know a really good massage therapist,
Oh, I love that.
and they give you the name of a massage therapist. So, if you're new in the chapter, think about who in your contact sphere is not in the chapter. And then those obviously are the professionals that you're going to ask for. And your members know who they are. Sometimes new members don't know to share with their members who they're looking for to fill out their contact sphere.
You
So I
know,
think it's important.
I love this element of the conversation because sometimes as a new member, as even as a seasoned member,
Mhm.
we tend to overcomplicate or get stressed out about the element of inviting people into the room. And what you just shared is
Mhm.
so simple, and it's just about reaching out and reaching out to another colleague, another business person, because let's face it, every person in your chapter, including you, were invited into the room. And
Exactly.
we don't want to overcomplicate it and make it hard on ourselves. So what you just shared was
Mhm.
incredibly valuable. How we just want to be able to ask those right questions.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and Patty, so go ahead.
I'm just going to say that I remember Dr. Ivan Meisner saying that when your chapter doubles, the referrals triple.
Mm,
I'll never forget that. And it really made me think. And it's like, why wouldn't we want more people here? This is fantastic. And actually, it's more salespeople in the room for you to go and
absolutely.
spread your message,
So
right?
Patty, now that we've invited people into the room, and one of I love the fact that you mentioned that Ivan shares, because I've heard him multiple times, that when you double the size of the room, that the
Mhm.
referrals and everything
Mhm.
triples, right? It goes up exponentially. Our
Exactly.
goal right now in San Diego is our benchmark goal for all of our chapters is to be at 30 and above. Because
Fantastic.
we've learned over the years that that 30 member mark and above, things
It's
go up
where the magic
exponentially,
starts to happen. Yes.
right?
Mm.
So now that we've got, let's say that now that we've reached that 25, 30 member mark, we've got these people into the room.
Yes.
Now what? Now what do we need to be doing?
Now what?
What do we be focused?
Now it's all about referrals, isn't it? And so we'll talk a little bit about uh, passing referrals
Yeah.
because I think that new members are seeing all these referrals being passed and people standing up and I've got this in closed business and that and it's intimidating.
Yes.
Oh, it can
Yeah.
be,
Oh, very much so.
and they're thinking, oh, how do I find these referrals for these
Mm.
people? Well, an easy thing is listening to people complaining. I remember Dr. Meisner talking about that. And it's so true. Thinking about people like my car wouldn't start this morning, or uh, oh, I pulled out my back, or my computer isn't working, or
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
frustrated with something else. I mean, think about it, right? If somebody they're expressing a need.
Mm.
So that's one of the things I think you shared with me that your chapters use rosters.
Yep.
And whether your chapter has a roster or they don't have a roster, it doesn't matter because I don't think I ever went to a meeting in all 25 years that I didn't take notes of
Ooh,
what
yeah,
people were
absolutely.
asking for. How am I going to remember what 20, 30, plus people are asking for? I can't remember that. So having a roster and taking those notes is so important. I can't
Well,
stress it enough.
it's important on two parts. One, it helps me remember what people are asking for, and it
Mhm.
also, I think there's another added benefit. It
Mhm.
also tells your fellow members that you're actually listening and that you're taking the time to write it down so that when you leave the room, that you can go out and find referrals for one another.
Right. And don't leave it in your car.
Yeah.
I mean, have it right at your desk so that every single morning before, like if you are someone that goes out and does your business, whether you're in sales or whatever it might be, think about where you're going that day. Look at the notes that you took. And guess what? Sometimes it happens, right? It happens. So I think that that's really, really important. I can think of a time when an attorney, actually, he was an architect, actually, and when we used to use card files,
Yeah.
I know everybody uses their phone now. I mean,
Yeah, everything is on the phone now.
right? I mean, so many things have changed, but what hasn't changed is certainly the giver's gain philosophy
Absolutely.
and the recipe of how BNI works, right? So he said that he would always look to see where he was going that day, and that when he took notes, I think it was the copier person said that if you happen to be like an attorney's office, he's like, I'm going to an attorney's office today. It said, I want you to go in and look to see where the copier is, if there's papers in there. It could be over a lot of papers. It could mean that it's not functioning correctly. And, do attorneys want to save money? Oh, yeah, they do, right? So then you can share a little bit about who I am. So anyway, he did exactly that and went there and he said, wow, well, you go through a lot of paper. And they said, oh, yeah, we do. I'm like, you know what? I have a friend. In fact, he specializes in helping firms just like yours save a lot of money. So
Mm,
in any event, he got him he said, if I give you his name, will you accept his call? So now he's asking permission.
absolutely love that. Yes.
Right? And he said, of course. So there you go. So he was really a top referral passer as an architect. I thought that's terrific, right?
Well, and it came out of, and one of the things that you mentioned earlier is finding out the needs of the people around you, right? Being just opening your eyes and being observant to your environment, and a combination of opening your eyes and being observant, and then adding in listening to what your fellow referral partners are sharing with you, what to look for. That's why it's incredibly important, I think, that this whole element of knowing the people in the room, right? So there's the meeting format, right? When people are doing their weekly presentations, their feature presentations, we're taking notes. Another element of that you and I talked about before is this element of something that in BNI we call a one-to-one,
Oh, yes. Yes.
right? Because our schedule, our meeting is 90 minutes. It's packed. We've got so much to get done.
All
So
right.
not a whole lot of time to build the relationships and get to know one another.
And while that meeting's happening and people are going around, and if I've never passed you a referral, or you say, oh, I'm looking to connect with insurance companies or something like that, or somebody, the VP of an insurance company, you're like, well, I might know somebody, but here's the thing. When you go to that one-on-one, and I would ask that person, hey, you want to do lunch, or you want to grab a cup of coffee? And because if I don't know how to pass somebody a referral, I don't have a
Yeah.
clue, then that is my clue to ask them for a one-to-one.
Ooh.
And when I sit down with them, I say, okay, I want to be able to pass you a referral, but I really don't know how. So what do I listen for? What do I look for? And when I hear that or see that, what do you want me to say on your behalf
Oh,
to get to the appointment? And it's like, I'm not looking to close business for you. That's not what I'm here for. But I am here to set it up, just like volleyball. I just want to get you that appointment. That's all I want, right? And so this happened so many times, and I would do a workshop on it, phrases to listen for or whatever. And I'll never forget a mover that stood up in the chapter, and he said, my name's Lenny. I work for this big, massive moving company. And this is what I want for you to do for me this week. If you're out and about in a business, or maybe a storefront, and they're busy and there's boxes piled up, that could mean that they're getting ready to move. This is what I want you to do. Look to see if there's somebody behind the counter, and if somebody's asking that person a lot of questions, it's probably the manager or the owner. I want you to go up and say, wow, business is booming, huh? And point to the boxes. And when they say, oh yeah, they may say, we're getting ready to move. And if they do, say, who are you using? Right? So he talks about this conversation. And sure enough, it was probably 3 months later, but that was in the back of my mind because it was so visual, right? And I walked into a photo store, and I was buying some things, and it was busy, and there were boxes piled up. And I thought, this is crazy. And it made me think of Lenny right away. And there was a guy behind the counter, people asking me questions. I went up with my purchases, and I said, wow, business is booming, huh? And he said, oh yeah. And he goes, in fact, we're getting ready to move. And I'm like, no kidding. Where are you moving to? Oh, right down the street. Oh, who are you using? He said, he looked around and he goes, we're going to get all the employees together on the weekend and we'll
Ah.
do it ourselves. I said, why would you want anything to happen to this delicate equipment that you work so hard for when I have a friend? In fact, his company specializes in moving computer companies from
Oh
one
my gosh.
building to another. And I said, geez, I don't have his number on me right now. I'm going back to my office. Can I have him give you a call? And he said, yeah, sure. Literally, Lenny went down there, he wrote up the move, and then you see, and then Atlas Van Lines comes in and does the whole thing. And it was fascinating because the following day, Channel 5 had called and said, we heard your company's booming. We want
Oh
to
wow.
feature you on the 11 o'clock news. I was like, oh my God. And long story short, they said, could you think about how this works? Like, a great referral, maybe film this referral happening. So they filmed Atlas Van Lines going into this Photoshop. And then the Photoshop owner was so excited that I shared that with them. You think the van company was excited, the moving company, they got so much business out of it. So did the other guy. And it's win-win-win, you know? So I think that if you don't know how to pass somebody a referral, that is your cue to sit down with them and ask them, how do you train your salespeople?
Hmm. You know, I think that's a huge element, right? Is a lot of times we get stuck or we hit a wall like, hey, I don't know how to refer to that member, and we stop there because we think that I
Yeah,
don't
you
know how to
want
refer
to.
to him. But no, to your point, that is your cue to go, you know what? I need to do a one-to-one with this person to learn about them and to learn how to get them a referral. Don't stop at, oh my gosh, I don't know how to give that person a referral, so I'm just going to stop there. Go the extra mile and say, hey, you know what? I want to learn how to refer to you. Let's do a one-to-one. Let's get together and get to know one another.
You know, a very quick story thinking about the one-to-ones. I have a friend who's still an executive director, actually, and he was in the financial services industry, and he had a friend that was in a colleague that was in a financial planner, and said, "Hey, you got to get me into a chapter. I got to get, I love this thing. I love the concept of the thing." And of course, there weren't any openings, as you
Yeah.
know. But he said, when one comes up, please call me. I'll be there in a heartbeat. Well, it happened. He called his friend went, his friend joined. He followed up with him about, maybe, I don't know, a month or two later. He said, how's it going? I'm not really getting any referrals. Well, have you done one-to-ones? And
Oh, Patty, for some reason, I think you just went off of mute or you just went on mute.
oh,
There we go.
okay. So he said he had met with everybody in the chapter, and he said, well, is there anybody that can you think of anybody that maybe you haven't met with? And he goes, I don't know. And you know what? People think that they already know, or they think, oh, that person doesn't know anybody, or why, what would I have in common with that person? And so he ends up doing a one-to-one with a doctor. And so they're doing this, going through this thing about, oh, your family, you're this, you're
Hmm.
that, trying to get to
Yep.
know the other person. And one of the things is like he said, well, what do you like to do on the weekends? And he said, well, my wife and I are pretty tied up. We have a child that has autism, and that really takes up a lot of our time. And the financial guy said, you know what? My sister has a son with autism. Oh, he said, oh, do you belong to any organizations or anything like that, or any support groups? And he said, no, 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 this is kind of our thing, and we just do it as a family. And he said, oh, wow, okay. Well, he went home and he really kept thinking about it, and he called his sister and he said, what are those groups that you meet with and those support things? Anyway, gave him the information, and he went and met the doctor and gave him the information again. So he said, wow, this is really nice that you went out of your way to do this for me. And he said, yeah, well, I thought it would be helpful. So then several months go by, and the doctor comes in one day and just says, I just have to tell you, this was like the biggest thing that ever happened in our life. Our son now has met these other kids, and we've met these other parents, and it's really made an incredible difference in our lives. And I just want to say thank you so much. And I would love to go on another one-to-one with you. And that's fine. All right. So they go on the one-on-one. And the doctor says, we've had a financial planner for 20 years. And you know what? That guy, I don't even know. He doesn't know much about our lives. He calls me once a year. We just don't really have a relationship. And I love that you and I have a relationship. And my wife and I have discussed this in length, and we want to take our entire portfolio.
Oh my goodness.
And it was well over 7 figures.
Oh, and
You
all
just
coming out of
right?
all coming out of someone going the extra mile,
Mhm.
building the relationships in the room and showing that you care about the people in the room. Right? It
Exactly.
wasn't about I'm doing this to get a referral. It was about doing it because it tugged on the person's heart and go, I want to be able to help. That giver's gain mentality.
Mhm.
And again, it just goes to show how incredible when you invest in the room, right? Investing in BNI is not just about your venue dues or the membership fee. More importantly, it's about your time investing into the people into that room. And if you really want to maximize your membership, really focus on investing into the room, invest into the people in the room.
I, I couldn't agree with you more, Ed. And I think if you have that attitude of you never know who or what is going to make a difference in your business or
Oh
your
my
life,
goodness.
if you just have that attitude, that absolutely is going to be, it's going to rocket ship your membership. There's no doubt. And just focus on bringing a visitor a week, passing one referral, right? Literally, and those one-to-ones are key, you
Oh,
know.
yeah, that's where the relationships really get
Those.
built.
And how many should you do in a week? As many as you can.
Right? It's not
And
just about doing just one.
right. You never know. You never know. And BNI is a family. I mean, I know for a fact that we still have 25, 28-year-old, 30-year-old members.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it is just in case you didn't know when you join, it's for life. So,
Whether someone like you who's been retired for 6 years, you're still very active. You're still
oh
keeping
yeah,
those relationships alive. They don't end just
no,
when someone ends, for whatever season they're going through, if it's changing jobs or moving, those relationships don't end, which is what I love about, what we do in BNI and particularly building the relationships.
relationships in life are everything.
Mm, yeah.
Mhm.
Patti, there are so many different topics and with that I'm thinking about we've got to have you on again because there's a couple of other topics that I can think of. But
Um,
this whole element of maximizing your membership for
mhm.
our audience, for our listeners today, as we prepare to kind of close out the show or the episode rather, what's a gold nugget? What's something that you can leave with our listeners to really help them think about that element of maximizing their membership, maximizing their time, getting the return on investment in their time in this chapter and the community that is even outside of your immediate chapter.
Wow. Um, Volunteer.
Mm,
I will tell you, volunteering is a wonderful thing to do because uh, who do you find when you volunteer? Leaders. You want to be around leaders? Absolutely. It's Ivan talks about who's in your room.
yep.
But that seems to be a common thread with BNI members. Those who volunteer are BNI members. I don't know. They just, whether they're coaches on a softball team or they're doing something in their community or they go to the chamber and they're a membership person or whatever it might be.
Get
Um,
involved.
get involved because that's what
And
it's all about.
and do it from a standpoint of I'm doing it because I want to give back, not from if I get involved, what can I get out of it
Oh,
type.
no, no, no. I think as you become ingrained in BNI and BNI becomes ingrained in you,
Ooh,
then
that's a it is it is a back and forth, right?
it
Yes.
is, it is. But I just think that that mentality leaves you because when you really get what BNI is all about, when you're in those meetings and meeting with those people, it really, I mean, the light bulb goes off. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. And if people aren't, if they're saying BNI is not working, well, they're not working BNI.
And
Um,
and
and if
wow,
they
that's a powerful statement.
truly, if you're at your chapter and you see someone giving like 5 referrals a week, or they always have visitors there, do a one-to-one with them and say, how do you do that?
Ah,
Share with me, how do you do that? Because I want to be that person too. You know,
wow. Oh, Patty, I love it. Thank you so much. So many gold nuggets out of this episode with you. I'm looking forward to having you back and joining us. There are a handful of conversations from this conversation that I know that we can have, and just thank you for your years of BNI, for our years of friendship. It's been 16 plus years now that we've known each other, and I've
yes.
been blessed every moment of my time with you. So thank you for joining us.
Your members are so fortunate to have you, Ed, because I know how much you care.
I appreciate that.
You're
And
welcome.
again, thank you for joining us today. For our listeners, we are excited for this episode. We're excited to be able to have Patty back with us. And next week, make sure that you tune in because we've got another wonderful guest. Thank you all and have a great afternoon. And Patty, again, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ed.
Have a great one, everyone.
This episode of the BNI San Diego podcast has been brought to you by Cruise Productions, a San Diego-based video production company and proud BNI member. You can find us at the intersection where business and creativity meet, or online at cruiseproductionsinc.com.